Hello and welcome to Public Affairs Now, our super local look at what's going on in the Maryland General Assembly and the Anne Arundel County Council. In this episode, we will focus on the State House as they start debating the budget and local issues. Today we have Len Lazarick from MarylandReporter.com and Speaker of the House, Mike Bush.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you both for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Mr. Speaker, let's start with you. Everyone is watching how the dynamic plays out as Governor Larry Hogan works with the General Assembly for the first time. How would you say things are going so far?
I think there's been a pretty smooth transition so far. Governor Hogan has come in office and reached out to everyone to indicate that he wants to work together to resolve the issues in front of the state of Maryland. So I'm very pleased with the first couple of weeks. We have 60 new members, obviously, in the House of Delegates. That's been a challenge, but a real opportunity for all of them to work in the House. Obviously, we're going to have issues within the budget that Governor Hogan puts forward, but that's all part of the debate in the democratic process.
Len, would you agree? What have you observed so far as relations between the governor and the legislature?
Well, it's very early on in the process, and the governor, as he has consistently, both in the campaign and particularly after the campaign, has said he wants to work in a bipartisan fashion, and the Speaker and the Senate President have indicated they'll be cooperative. But how that actually works out, we've seen now that the budget has been introduced, a little pushback on what's going on. And we haven't seen a legislative package either. We've seen some regulations pulled back that people object to. So far we're still in a honeymoon period, but I can't imagine it's going to last. Tell you the truth.
Well, the biggest issue, of course, is the budget. The legislature cannot increase spending to the budget introduced by the governor. So let's take a quick look at a clip of County Executive Steve Shue testifying before the delegation about the budget.
The budget's going to be challenging. As you know, we're kind of on the receiving end of some of the same issues that you're dealing with at the state level. It's going to be a tough budget year, but I have to say that Governor Hogan's budget is spot on. Brings the budget into the state budget into structural balance immediately, as it should be. Without new taxes, without cutting education. So I think he's found the sweet spot.
What do you think will be the biggest issues with the budget, Mr. Bush?
Well, particularly for Anne Arundel County, the expectations for Anne Arundel County is that get close to $24 million in the budget, and all but $7 million of that has been cut. There's a cut of close to $9.5 million. The K-12 education goes directly to the Board of Education. And as you know, the Board of Education has no fiscal responsibility. They can't raise fees or taxes. So they have to absorb that unless the county government's going to step up or unless it's mitigated in the state budget. The community colleges also get hit for about $2 million, which probably means that unless the county fund some of that shortfall, that tuition will go up significantly at Anne Arundel Community College. But for the most part, I think hit the hardest in Anne Arundel County as well as across the state was K-12 education, about $150 million. Like I say, close to 10 million in Anne Arundel County and 40 million in Prince George's County. So there'll be quite a bit of debate about the funding formula for K-12 education.
And I think it's a little bit overemphasized how much control that the governor has. It's a cooperative process with the legislature, and particularly with the education funding that the Speaker talks about. That has to be modified in law with the Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act. The legislature has to go along with that. I think the counties are disappointed too that the Governor Hogan has not restored the highway user revenues the way he consistently has promised to do, and so everybody's taking a bit of a hit on the budget, and we'll see how that transpires. The budget, the governor was making a big deal about the fact that the governor was structurally balanced, but the budget, as he introduces it, must be balanced. Doesn't have much choice there, and we'll see if the legislature goes along with the changes that will continue to keep it balanced.
Well, another big issue raised by County Council Chairman Jerry Walker was highway user revenue, which is state funding used to repair and replace roads. Let's take a look at what Councilman Walker had to say.
Hope that the governor and you all will try to protect not only what's in there, but not let any additional cuts, be passed that. And if there's any way, obviously, we could get an increase in it, that'd be beneficial as well. For those of you who are new to the delegation, back in the 2006-2007 timeframe, the county government was receiving about $30 million a year in highway user revenues. Highway user revenue is basically the Anne Arundel County at the time was our share of the gas tax and vehicle registration fees, and that amounted to about $30 million. It was roughly 30% of what Anne Arundel County was generating. So county government was generating about, or county residents were generating about $100 million in revenue. County government was getting about $30 million back. That dropped precipitously from $30 million down to under $1 million. We're up to about $3 million. So it's significantly lower than where it is. This is an issue that not only affects Anne Arundel County, but all the municipalities. I know the mayor's impacted in the city as well. So across the board, this is an issue that your constituents are dealing with.
Mr. Bush, have you heard anything with regard to highway user money and what will happen this year?
Look, I think highway user money is a grant that comes from the state to counties. It is not guaranteed. It's strictly a grant. It's an agreement that 25% of the money would come there, but it's been shifted often. Governor Ehrlich did it, Governor O'Malley did it, because our primary function is to fund education. But the same token, I mean, county governments, anytime they want, can step up and fund a lot of those projects. As you know, Carla, the county can prioritize whatever they want within their own budget. And, if the grant money's not there, it's not there. And the fact of the matter, with gas prices falling, the gas tax also falls with it. Plus, the money that would come back for highway user is also depleted. So I don't see a whole lot of highway user money available to Governor Hogan to be used to give back to municipalities and counties.
Len, we've heard a lot of talk about the stormwater fee, also known to some as the rain tax. What do you see happening with that, if anything?
Well, we're pretty much going on with what the Senate President and the Speaker have said. I don't believe that the votes are there, particularly in the House, to do a total repeal, as Governor Hogan has he may ask for a total repeal. I don't think they're going to get a total repeal. There will more likely be a change in the legislation that gives the counties more flexibility, much as Frederick and Carroll already have done. Executive Shue has said that he can find the money elsewhere. The primary idea is not so much that you need to have a tax, is that you have to take care of the stormwater. And as long as that gets done, I don't know as a legislature is going to have a problem.
First of all, it's a federal directive that you have to meet and comply with stormwater management practices that affect the Chesapeake Bay and the rivers and tributaries. It was refreshing to hear County Executive Shue say on Friday that he was committed to the current process that the county has adopted to upgrade their stormwater management systems. And it was pointed out that obviously the counties get the right to collect the tax, maintain the tax, and implement the stormwater management plans without having to go back to the state. But they will be judged by the federal government and the EPA when they come in here in 2017 and review the plan. So I think County Executive Shue is taking the right direction. I mean, Anne Arundel County has more waterfront property than any other county in the state. We pride ourselves on being the stewards of the Chesapeake Bay, Severn River, and other tributaries. So I was glad to hear him say that. And as Len pointed out, there's plenty of flexibilities for counties. And in this morning's Sun paper, Governor Hogan's spokesperson said that he's always believed counties had the right to set whatever fee they wanted to set. So I'm assuming that he's supportive of the stormwater management fee, and we'll leave it up to each individual county how they're going to set their fee to meet that requirement set by the federal government.
Last week, County Executive Steve Shue presented his priorities for the General Assembly. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
There are two bills that we will be asking for your help to get through the General Assembly. The first is secondary employment for our police officers. This is something Delegate Kipke brought to your attention a couple years ago. There is a glitch in state law. Glitch is probably not the right word, but the way current state law is written, the Ethics Commission of Anne Arundel County has interpreted state law to preclude our police officers from working secondary employment in any establishment that serves alcohol, which means they can't work in bars, they can't work in restaurants, they can't work in the casinos, anything like that. And those establishments, if they want to have police officers in the establishments for security, it's got to be state police or private security. Can't have our own police officers. And obviously we want to do everything we can do to enable our police officers to get extra income on their own time. And so we'd ask for your help modifying the current state statute to allow Arundel County to have its officers engage in secondary employment.
Len Lazarick, you had the chance to sit in on the briefing of the delegation. What were some takeaways for you from that meeting?
Well, of course, everybody knows each other. Until last year, Steve Shue was part of the delegation and chaired it for a while, and the speaker is a member of the delegation. So you have everybody has a pretty good working relationship there, and the county executive's priorities sound pretty modest, particularly when you see talk about the heroin problem, which a number of the counties, both rural and suburban, are experiencing. So giving them the flexibility. I suppose the most interesting thing about the what's happened with Governor Hogan's budget and the way the county delegation has responded is, whereas in the past the Republican delegates would be critical of Governor O'Malley's budget, now that it's a Republican governor, they're saying, well, this is a pretty good budget, and while not using the gimmicks, the so-called gimmicks that they talk about in transfer of funds, Governor Hogan has done some of the same things that Governor O'Malley would do, particularly the way that the employee salaries have been. He's not allowing raises for the employee salaries, and these are the kind of things that they have some flexibility on, and so as I say, the Republican delegates are now in the position of supporting a Republican governor and his budget.
If I can comment on that, I think the question was, Carla, about County Executive Shue's presentation on his priorities. I think we agree wholeheartedly with the issue of trying to get some control over the expanding heroin problem in Anne Arundel County and throughout the state, making sure that emergency responders have Narcan, that it's available at emergency rooms and people are trained in it. I think some of the areas of liability will come into play if Good Samaritan laws and so forth for one that would use Narcan to help someone come back from a heroin problem. The problem with heroin in the county and the state is the fact that it's laced with fentanyl. It causes respiratory arrest, and people, if they're not attended to immediately, have a chance of dying from an overdose of heroin laced with fentanyl. Much of it is because it's so readily available, so readily cheap on the streets, that people now use that as the drug of choice for those who have addictions. Before it was the Oxycontins and so forth, but now it becomes heroin.
County Council Chairman Jerry Walker also addressed the delegation and talked about similar priorities as the county executive. Here's what he had to say about police moonlighting.
We had a situation where the ethics department, when they had told the police officers they were no longer allowed to work secondary, we had a restaurant/bar in Crofton that within the first 30 days had 3 fights in the parking lot. So we're not talking about police officers even working inside these establishments. In most cases, they're parked in their cruisers outside of the establishment, and they're there just to prevent issues like that from popping up and happening in the parking lot when people are leaving.
Mr. Speaker, can you explain how these local bills work? What is the process going forward?
Yeah, basically, there's a local courtesy if it just affects the existing jurisdiction. So for Anne Arundel County policemen, for argument's sake, to have secondary employment, that would be a local courtesy that would be worked out between the county executive and government and the council and the delegation. That legislation came up before with County Executive Leopold, if you remember, Carla. And now it is back again. I think the question before and why it didn't pass was you had policemen that were going to be working mainly at bars and restaurants, sometimes in their own districts, that would be called in to make arrests at some of those places as well. Was there going to be a conflict with an employer relationship? I think if you can work out a situation where as police officers are stationed in certain barracks that just can't work in the area where they work on a regular basis.
Well, the session moves very quickly, and before we know it, it'll be over. Thank you to our guests, House Speaker Mike Bush and Len Lazarick. You can read Len's dispatches from Annapolis by subscribing to MarylandReporter.com. You can also like his Facebook page for regular updates. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Carla. We really appreciate it. Thanks.